হেল্ল' স্যাৰ ভালে আছে? মই ভালে আছোঁ। তোমাৰ কেনেকুৱা কোৱা? মোৰ ভালে আছে স্যাৰ। কি কাৰণে ফোন কৰিলা? স্যাৰ মোৰ ডিকনষ্ট্ৰাকশ্যনটো বুজিব আছিলে আৰু মই পঢ়িছোঁ কিন্তু বুজি পোৱা নাই। আৰু স্যাৰ আপোনাক দেখিবলৈ ভাল লাগিছে আজি স্যাৰ, বগা ব্লেক টাই। থেংক ইউ ভেৰি মাছ স্যাৰ। আৰু স্যাৰ ডিকনষ্ট্ৰাকশ্যনটো বুজাই দিলে ভাল পাম স্যাৰ। Okay, I will attempt. I don't know how far I would be successful in comprehending a complex story like this. That is a Herculean task for me, and let me try. Okay, so ৰ'বা চকুতে কিবা এটা খজুৱাই গৈছে। এইটো একো নাই স্যাৰ, একো নাই স্যাৰ। ষ্টাৰ্ট কৰোঁ? ঠিক আছে স্যাৰ, ষ্টাৰ্ট কৰি দিয়ক স্যাৰ। Okay, so deconstruction basically is an idea or a theory or a method to evaluate a text and try to relocate the meaning. Okay sir, okay. আৰু আগৰ meaning, that is what he tried to reject. He is rejecting the earlier meaning and he considered the meaning which has come out from the process which has been used by the Western is actually highly flawable. There is an error in that meaning making process. So deconstruction in a way is a reaction against the Western meaning making process. Okay, because Western use from Socrates to Plato, then Aristotle, and till now that method has been used to arrive at the meaning, to derive at the meaning, to conclude a meaning, and that method is highly falsifiable. There is a high amount of error in that process, and that process is called binary opposition. Okay, so binary opposition means what? Binary opposition means there has to be two ideas which are opposite to each other, which are extremely dichotomy. When two ideas are placed juxtaposed with each other, and there cannot be anything more than only two. That is the reason why it is called binary, and the characteristics of these two are opposite to each other. That is the reason why it is called binary opposition. Okay, so the Western use the binary opposition to arrive at the meaning. That means the process which has been used to arrive at the meaning is binary opposition. Okay. The reason why Jacques Derrida reject, abandon, forsake this binary opposition is because it creates hierarchy. When one idea is privileged over the other, what is going to do is it is going to create hierarchy, which actually is wrong according to Jacques Derrida, because the meaning should have been something else, but because one idea is being privileged over the other, that is not the true meaning, that is not the real meaning. The real meaning should have been created by God, or it should be objective, but when one idea is privileged over the other, it reflects a sense of subjectivity, because the binary opposition is created by human beings. Human beings are full of error. As you all know, human beings derive at a conclusion based upon their perceptive senses. The five senses is what limits a human being to see the absolute truth. Whatever truth that we have concluded to, whatever method that we have discovered so far, which have been used so far, is based upon the limited perception, limited idea, limited experience, limited evaluation, and that also is been we have also taken account of the prejudices which form over our experiences. We human beings are nothing but the combinations of different anxiety, different trauma, and different personality. Different personality reveal different types of paradigm which have been used to derive at the meaning. And one of the process which have been used by human beings is this binary opposition. Now binary opposition, when one idea is privileged over the other, what eventually is going to do is going to create hierarchy. And when we create hierarchy, the method which have been used to arrive at the meaning is the binary opposition, which is full of flaw, as you can see that, because one idea is privileged over the other. If I have to give an example unity, so white is privileged over the black. Now does that mean black is good or bad? Now white is privileged over the black. Black also should have been privileged, but it is the white, it is the human being, the people who have the agency to privilege one thing over the other. It is he who has make it a trend, who has make it a system, who has make it an order to privilege one thing over the other, and everything, all the notions are being worked, are being produced accordingly. So the hero always has to be white, the good always has to be white, the black always is evil. The characteristics of a evil is associated with the black. So as a result, this method which has been used, which is called binary opposition, is been rejected vehemently, is been forsaken, abandoned vehemently by Jacques Derrida. Okay, so what he is going to do, he has evaluated the text by dismantling it. That means deconstruction also has got inspiration from Martin Heidegger and your Martin Luther. the Martin Heidegger and Martin Luther's concept called destruction. So deconstruction is inspired from destruction of Martin Heidegger and Martin Luther. So now he is not going to destroy the text, but is going to dismantle the text. Dismantling the text involves deconstruction. So deconstruction is all about dismantling the text and try to look at the meaning. So the meaning which was earlier obvious was actually coming out from the process called binary opposition. Now, how can the meaning, that is the product, be true, be genuine, be bona fide when the factory on which the product is being produced is false? There are ample amount of error in the product, in the factory. So you can well imagine the product, the final product, that is the meaning coming out from the factory also is going to be false, because the binary opposition is a reflection of a human prejudice. That is the reason why they privilege one thing over the other. And that also is the antithesis of what is objective. Because if there is objective, then things would have been different. But when white is privileged over the black, when rich is privileged over the poor, when cultured is privileged over the uncultured, I think that is where the flaws are. That is where the error is. That is where the Achilles heel is. Now, that is what in the deconstruction, what Jacques Derrida has done, that earlier, when one idea is privileged over the other, now Jacques Derrida is trying to locate if the meaning can be found in less privileged one. What if we reverse the binary opposition and see what is going to come out? Is the meaning going to be different from the previous meaning which has come out from the flawed binary opposition? And what is going to happen when we are going to reverse the binary opposition? So now Jacques Derrida, what he has done is that he has tried to focus upon the less privileged one, less privileged counterpart, and see what is going to be the meaning. Okay, so deconstruction was basically a lecture delivered in the University of Hopkins by Jacques Derrida and his student. What they have done, because they are in love, they are so much in love with the teacher Jacques Derrida, and Jacques Derrida was a respected teacher like you or me or like anyone else. So what they have done, they have compiled his lecture and created a book out of his lecture, which is called Of Grammatology, and it was in the French language, but it was translated in English language by Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, where she has explained this term very clearly. Now, deconstruction also is a reaction against the structuralism. Sir, structuralism mane ki asile? Sir, structuralism mane? Good question. So structuralism is again the reaction of the existentialism. So like postmodernism is just reaction against the modernism, and modernism is a reaction against the Victorian period, and Victorian period is a reaction against the Romantic period, and Romantic period is a reaction against the Neoclassical or 18th century. Okay, so similarly, post-structuralism also is a reaction against the structuralism. So the reaction against the structuralism is the deconstruction, and deconstruction happens after structuralism. That is the reason why deconstruction also is called post-structuralism. Okay, sir. So if you can look at the structuralism, you are going to know that in the structuralism, the structure is what. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me begin from the very beginning. Okay, মই আৰম্ভণি পৰা অলপ কম। এক্সিষ্টেঞ্চিয়েলিজমৰ পৰা মই কম, ঠিক আছে? এক্সিষ্টেঞ্চিয়েলিজম, তুমি এটা কাম কৰক, পেন এণ্ড পেপাৰ লৈ লোৱা নহ'লে। একচুৱেলি মইতো আৰম্ভণিতে ক'ব লাগিছিলে, কিন্তু এনিৱে বেটাৰ লেট দেন নেভাৰ। পেন এণ্ড পেপাৰ লৈ লোৱা, এণ্ড হোৱাট এভাৰ আই এম সেইং ট্ৰাই টু ৰাইট ইট ডাউন so that it is going to help you, so that my lecture is going to become a references, so that you can write it down in your examination, so that you can fly with the flying colors, and you can sit in front of me in the post of assistant professor. Okay, so like together we can teach the classroom, and you have been a very good student. So let me tell you, thank you sir, thank you sir, ঠিক আছে sir. Okay, so listen very carefully. Okay, so there is one phone also sir. ছবিটা কোৱা। মই ভিডিঅ'টা বনাই আছোঁ, পাছত ফোন কৰিব ৰ'বা। Okay, so now, sorry for the interruption, that phone has come. Okay, so let me continue. Okay, sir. So let me start with the existentialism philosophy. Okay, so existentialism philosophy basically talks about the human being who come first. So it has been proposed by Jean-Paul Sartre. So Jean-Paul Sartre, what he has done, he has stated that human being comes first and every other thing comes later. So it is the high necessity for human beings to get rid of those structure, to get rid of those of those culture, the language, because they are keeping him small, they are limiting him. But structuralism, which comes as a reaction against existentialism, they propose the idea that in order to generate the meaning, a person or the text or the particular thing that we try to evaluate, he needs or it needs or she needs the help of the structure on which she or he belongs to. So structuralism basically gives the idea, emphasis upon the idea that it is the structure which is responsible for generating the idea of the thing that we are focusing upon. So if you're trying to locate a text, if you're trying to get a meaning of something, you have to see on which structure that particular thing belongs to. So structuralism basically emphasizes that a human being or any particular thing or any particular subject that we try to demystify, that we try to decode, that we try to arrive at a meaning, that we try to arrive a meaning at, it always is been guided, it always is been governed by, it is always is been supported by the structure. The structure is responsible for generating the meaning for that particular thing that we are studying. As for example, I am a teacher. Now I am a teacher only when I have the student to teach, and the student can find me only when they are admission in an institution. Okay, now the institution has arranged, has order, has certain make certain principle in such a way that students are going to take admission in the institution where they are going to appoint me, and I am being given a task to clear the portion so that they can pass with a flying color, so they can clear the examination. Only then I could be credited, acknowledged as a good teacher, because I have promoted them, I have uplifted them, I have made their mind develop through the lecture that I have given in the class, which has been designed by the institution. So the structure is what is responsible for generating the meaning for me. If I have to generate a meaning of me, that I am a teacher, I have to rely upon the structure. The structure in a way is helping me to get the meaning. Also in this case, this is going to apply to the student as well. Students are students only when they rely upon the structure of the institution. Similarly, the case of the doctor. A doctor is a doctor only when he is being governed by the principles which are in the institution, like medical or the chamber, the hospital. The hospital appoints the doctor to treat the patient. Now the doctor diagnose the patient's sickness by the help of a laboratory. So all these things are nothing but a structure which secure the definition of a doctor. So the doctor cannot be defined by identifying himself independently from the structure. So structure in a way is responsible for generating the meaning of the doctor. So similarly, a patient is a patient only when he is in the structure which helps him secure the very identity, secure the very definition of what he claims to be a patient. Okay, so similarly, Ferdinand de Saussure, like Jacques Derrida, given a lecture not in Johns Hopkins University but in the University of Geneva. Ferdinand de Saussure, like Jacques Derrida, was delivering a lecture in the University of Geneva. So like the student of Jacques Derrida, the student of Ferdinand de Saussure too have created a book out of his lecture, which is called The Courses of General Linguistics. So Ferdinand de Saussure was a Sanskrit linguist. So Ferdinand de Saussure claims that in order to get the meaning of a text, we have to see the structure which the text belongs to. Claude Lévi-Strauss, John Roman Jacobson, two were structuralist thinkers. Okay. Now, Ferdinand Saussure have proposed the idea that in order to get to the meaning of any text, we have to see the structure on which the text belongs to. So the text belongs to the structure of language. Okay, if language is the byproduct of our culture and culture is the structure which is creating the language, so in order to get to the meaning of the text, in order to get to the meaning of the story, we have to see the story belongs to which structure. It belongs to the structure of language. So language is language. If we see the structure of a language, what is the structure of a language? There are signs, isn't it? What is language? Language is nothing but a tool that we use to communicate with each other. Language is nothing but a tool. When we have an idea to convey to the other person or to the listener, to the viewer, the spectator, the audience, we take the help of the available means, which is called language. Human beings has come up with this formula called language. So we have no other option but to rely upon the language. And language is nothing but a sign. Language is nothing but sign. Different language, different structure. Different structure, different language. So like water in English language. So the water in the language called English, in the structure of English people, it is called water. But in the structure of Hindustani people, it is called jal. In the Assamese structure, it is called pani. Okay, clear? So similarly, when we try to look at the structure of a language, we are going to see that each word are nothing but sign, and the signs are divided into signifier and signified. Exactly, the signs are divided into signifier and signified. What is signifier and signifier? The word that we utter from our mouth, the sound that we utter in our mouth, and the intention we have is to communicate, to convey the idea to the listener. That particular sound that we use with the intention to communicate with the other person, that particular sound is called signifier. When the particular word that we have in our mind is understood in the listener's mind, is called signified. That means the understood idea, the idea that has been understood, is called signified. Clear? Clear, sir? Yes, sir. This is the structure of the language. Because we are in an attempt, we are in a voyage, we are in an adventure, we are in an odyssey, where we are trying to get to the meaning of a text. And for that, in the structuralism, we have to look at the structure of the language. And what is the structure of the language? Signs. And each sign is divided into signifier and signified. So in the structuralism, each sign leads to a signified, and that is the final meaning. So in the structuralism, there is a finality of meaning, there is a fixed meaning. Okay, sir. In the structuralism, there is a fixed meaning, there is a finality of meaning, there is a conclusion. But in the post-structuralism, which in fact is a reaction against the structuralism, and in a deconstruction, Jacques Derrida has stated that we cannot reach to a meaning. The text cannot have a meaning. The reason for that being is very simple, because each signifier that leads to a signified becomes another signifier when re-evaluated, when thought upon. We can never reach to a signified, because every time we reach to a signified, that signified becomes another signifier, and it creates a sense of confusion. And that particular terminology which Jacques Derrida has used is called aporia. That particular terminology, that particular word is called aporia by Jacques Derrida, who has invented this term, who have used this term. Aporia simply means confusion, dilemma. Like Hamlet by William Shakespeare, he has told that to be or not to be. So there is a confusion, because each time we reach to a conclusion, each time we arrive at a meaning, actually it is not a meaning, it is only by assumption that it is a meaning. But in reality, that meaning that we have thought it to be actually is our assumption. But in reality, that meaning that we have thought to be can become another signifier. If we reread again, we can never arrive at a meaning. The reason we can never arrive at a meaning is because every time that we signify leads to a signifier, the signifier becomes another signifier. Every time a signifier leads to a signified, it becomes another signifier. And like the postponed keep on going, keep on continue. The meaning is being postponed. That is the reason why Jacques Derrida has very beautifully, very clearly, very precisely, very vehemently, he has told, exhibited, displayed categorically that a text cannot have a meaning. No text has a meaning. In fact, nothing in this world has a meaning, because all the meaning that we have arrived at are nothing but by assumption. But in reality, if you look at it, the signified, the fixed, the meaning which has been considered to be the fixed, the final, is actually another signifier. It's waiting for another writer, waiting for another reader to reinterpret it. Because what we consider to be the meaning actually is our assumption. We can never reach to a conclusion, because every time we think we have reached actually is a signifier in disguise. It is always waiting, the signified always is waiting for someone else to make it a signifier. That is what the deconstruction is all about. Okay, so if I have to reiterate it again, if I have to repeat it again, এটা হলে বুঝিছানে? বুঝিছো স্যার? বুঝিছে না? ঠিক আছে। আমি যদি আকবার রিপিট কৰোঁ, রিক্যাপিচুলেট কৰোঁ, তেতিয়াহ'লে deconstruction by Jacques Derrida, okay, has claimed that text cannot have meaning. The reason for that being is very simple, which in fact is what the definition of that is why it can be understood that it is the reaction against the structuralism, because in the structuralism believe that finality of meaning is there. Structuralism believe there is a fixed meaning, but in deconstruction they believe that meaning cannot be fixed because there is a postponement of meaning. Every time the signifier leads to a signifier, which is in the case in the structuralism, but in a deconstruction, in the post-structuralism, the signifier leads to another signifier. Okay, the second point is deconstruction is a dismantling of the text. Deconstruction is nothing but dismantling the text and try to locate the meaning where the less privileged one is been overlooked. Earlier, the meaning has been found by emphasizing upon the privileged one. That is the method which has been used. So in a way, deconstruction is the reaction against the Western meaning making process. And what is the Western meaning making process? Is the binary opposition. Why binary opposition is wrong according to Jacques Derrida is because binary opposition privileges one thing over the other, which creates a hierarchy, which creates a wrong idea. And this binary opposition is created by human being. If it would have been created by God, or if there is a absolute, if the process which has been used by someone benevolent, by someone that cannot be questioned, then things would have been different. But human beings with a limited mind, with a limited perception, with a limited experience, has created this formula, and it only reveals their stereotype. It only reveals their malicious intention. It only reveals their stereotyping out of their prejudices. That is the reason why they have privileged one thing over the other. That it can be equivalent to post-colonialism. The colonizer and the colonized. The colonized consider themselves to be good. Now, even though the things may be otherwise, but it is the colonizer who always consider them to be good, who always consider them to be superior. That is coming out from what? That's coming out from the binary opposition. Like Edward said, Orientalism or Homike Bhabha. So all they have done is they have tried to decode, they have tried to correct those ways on which the human beings have gotten this impression that West are always superior than the East, but it may be otherwise. So Jacques Derrida too can be considered as a nationalist because he has criticized the Western meaning-making process, which is highly full of error. One of the error is very simple, that is the binary opposition. Okay, the post-structuralism or the deconstruction basically reacted the binary opposition and try to locate the meaning elsewhere. Earlier, the meaning is been found by privileging one thing over the other. Now he is trying to privilege the one that is not been privileged. Now he tried to modify the process where one thing is privileged over the other. Now he tried to reverse the binary opposition and see what is going to come out, and that also is correct. The reversal of binary opposition is equally correct than not reversing it. The reversal of binary opposition is equally important because that has not been the norms. Because the people who have the agency are always superior, they are the colonizer, because it is the West who have created this, who have created the mess. They have created the stereotypes, oversimplified version of the things. As a result, there is war going on. As a result, there is a hatred. The certain definition of certain things are not the way it should have been. Okay, so deconstruction is basically Jacques Derrida's contribution as a reaction to the West, and he is a nationalist. Okay, so Jacques Derrida is actually spelled as Jacques Derrida, J-S-E-Q-U-B-S, D-R-R-I-D-A, Jacques Derrida, but he is pronounced as Jacques Derrida. Along with Jacques Derrida, there is Paul Demon, then Michel Foucault. We know Michel Foucault by panopticons, the concept of panopticons. Jeremy Bentham. Then we have Ronald Burt, the concept called date of an author. Now, date of an author is a very beautiful contribution in the post-structuralism, because earlier the meaning has been final. Earlier in the structuralism, the meaning always has been final, because what author has to say, no one is going to reject him, because the work of art belongs to the author, because he has created the work of art, and it is what he has in mind is the final meaning. But in a post-structuralism, what has happened is that the authorship has been shifted. The author is no more have the authority. It depends. The meaning depends upon how the person interpret. If 10 different reader read the same story, the 10 different meaning can be come out. If I read one story in 2 different time, then I may get 2 different meaning depending upon the evolution that I have gone through, because of the progress that I have come, because of the realization that I have gone through. So when I read one story or I have seen a movie 10 years ago, when I see the same story or same movie again after 10 years, then there is a high possibility, then there is a high probability that with the evolved mind, the interpretation to see the movie is going to be different from how I was once upon a time. Okay, with the experience, I'm going to interpret it in two different ways, depending upon the time gap, the duration. Many things happen in the meantime, so that the yardstick which I used to evaluate this movie is going to get expanded. So that is all I can say. So I hope I have make a justice to your request, and thank you very much. I hope you have understand it, and I hope you are not going to confuse again. So this lecture is once and for all, and okay, so thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.